So, dudes, so today's lesson is going to be about women's suffrage. It's Monday, March 23rd, I think. So, I'm going to actually take you through the directions that all of you skip over first, and then take you through the PDF that I've told you to be reading. So, I'm going to go ahead and turn my screen on so that you could see everything that I'm going to be doing. LOL. Bada book, bada boom. Okay. So here we are. So first and foremost, what I want you to do is look at the actual assignment. When you're looking at the assignment, what you'll notice is that just today, by tomorrow, you just have to finish this girl power lesson. And when I say girl power lesson, what I'm talking about is this particular lesson that you have in your own personal assignment there. It's 26 total points. The whole assignment for the week is going to be 72 points, but that doesn't really matter. All right, so first and foremost, okay, so for today, you're going to use these slides, this one that says suffrage here, and you're going to use slides 15 to 19. I'm just actually going to kind of do it as a lecture right now as well for you. So what I'm going to do is if you were to click here, you would get this particular PDF here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to slide 15 to show you exactly where you should be starting. And we shall begin this sort of lecture. So first and foremost, your do now is to define what suffrage is. Suffrage, I'm actually going to go to my own class notes now. Suffrage is the right to vote in a political election. So up to this point, women did not have a right to vote, and actually they're not going to for a very long time. So first thing that we're looking for here, what is the role of a woman in the colonial era? So now I'm talking about when we were just at the 13 colonies. So let's see, they had different jobs than men would, and a lot of what they would do was just stuff within their own home. It's kind of really messed up, the lack of progressive nature that women really had here. They weren't allowed to go to college, they weren't allowed to vote, and they weren't allowed to have any professional jobs. Anything that they did do is probably something that was like off the books and wasn't really a legal job. They had no control over their children or their property. That's kind of a weird thing to say, especially because, they're the ones birthing these kids, but they actually had no real control over them or rights over them because only men can own property. Only men could really own anything. They were considered the head of the household. So they also needed their husband's permission in order to make a will, which is something that you would have when you would die and what people would get of yours, sign a contract, or to file a lawsuit. They were able to work outside of their home, but again, like they needed their husband's permission to do just about everything. So as we're looking here, what's the role of a woman? So not much progression in terms of what a woman was allowed to do. And what I'll say is I'm not going to go into super detail here. You can actually pause the video if you'd like and get your notes in that way. Totally up to you. But again, I'm just kind of getting the exact same information from the slides there. So where and when do women start to push for reform? Reform just means change. So organizing the movement. It was in the North, and it was actually after the abolitionist movement starts. So the abolition movement is when people started to feel like slavery should be abolished or done away with. So once they realized in the 1840s that they were looking to have African Americans have a bunch of rights, they realized, well, we should also have rights as well. That's the way that our country's starting to push. And so what was so insulting about their involvement, and again, remember, if I'm moving too fast, just pause the video for yourself. They were at these anti-slavery conventions, and the anti-slavery conventions, again, abolition, anti-slavery, it all means the same thing. They weren't allowed to talk because they were women. Remember, they needed their husband's permission to do a lot of things. They were limited to sit behind a curtain and listen. So like if you're imagining a stage and you kind of have like the off stage on the side there, that's kind of where they would be, just like behind a curtain, which is kind of weird. So yeah. So this takes us to the Seneca Falls Convention. First of all, who's Elizabeth Cady Stanton? Let me just pop that in there real quick. She's actually the person who's going to get credit for most of this, even though she was not the only woman. She attended this anti-slavery convention in the 1840s, and she started to plan her own convention, which is what is the Seneca Falls Women's Rights Convention in 1848. So at this convention, they're going to start a movement, and obviously every movement moves very slow, especially in the United States. And they're going to come up with, at this convention, what's going to be called the Declaration of Sentiments. The Declaration of Sentiments is going to be a document that looks very similar to the Declaration of Independence. And just to bring you back, that was your breakup letter that you wrote that Thomas Jefferson had a big part of. It's a list of complaints where they kind of listed some demands that they wanted at the end. And it's actually kind of horrible, but this is the reality of it. Women actually don't even get their right to vote until 1920 anyway, which is ridiculously wild considering that's about 70 years after the Seneca Falls Convention. So again, what is the Declaration of Sentiments? It's just like the Declaration of Independence, except this time they're not asking for freedom from Great Britain. They're asking for equal rights that any white man was going to get. Was it successful? Well, this is it's your opinion, really, honestly. Yes, but it's not an immediate success. So it's kind of a state by state dependency there. So in New York, they allow women to own property. They also allow women to make a wage, which means that they're allowed to work a paying job. In Massachusetts and Indiana, a woman is allowed to file for divorce. Also kind of weird. But it does take until 1920 for the 19th Amendment to be passed, which is a woman's right to vote. Again, let's do the math here, 72 years after the Declaration of Sentiments was written and presented, which is kind of messed up. So again, you have all of these slides there. This is kind of the state-by-state piece there. And the last thing that I want you to do, which is a 10-point piece of this assignment here, is I want you to tell me why you think that it was only a minor victory, meaning it wasn't like the end-all, be-all of women trying to fight for their rights. Remember, I talked about how it takes 72 years for a woman to get that right to vote in the first place. Explain to me in 2 or 3 sentences why it's a victory, but it's really not the biggest deal in the world. Let's see. I hope this video was helpful. I'm going to post another one for the assignment that's due Friday. But again, use all the resources that are here for you on the Google Classroom. Use this video and just get your work done. And yeah, let me know if you need some help. See you later.